We're excited to be with you today. This is our second Meet the Guide event. And so today I'm joined by Mary Danho, who's a guide from the Holy Land. She's calling in from Jerusalem. My name is John Paul LaShawn. I'm the founder and CEO of Verso Ministries. So really glad to be with everybody. If you are joining and you have a question for Mary, please don't be shy. You can put a comment on Facebook. You can put a question in or a comment, and we'll be monitoring those throughout. We'll be talking with Mary about being a guide in the Holy Land. And again, just so excited to be with everybody. Mary, thanks for being here. Do you want to just introduce yourself really quickly?
My name is Mary. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. My parents' house is located in the Christian Quarter, and it's called the Christian Quarter because most of the people who live there are Christians. So our house is located like close to the Holy Sepulchre Church, and right behind our house we have the Roman Catholic convent, Saint Savior. So when I go to the living room in my parents' house, I open the window, I can see Franciscan priest looking at me from his room. And my parents' house is located in a Greek Orthodox convent. So we have right across our door a Greek Orthodox nun living there. So that's the area where I grew up. And since we live close to the Holy Sepulchre, the Holy Sepulchre Church was our not only prayer place, but also a playground. So we used to play hide and seek there. And my favorite place to hide was Jesus' tomb. So it's really nice place to grow up in, especially when you're surrounded with a lot of Christians. It's different when you live in the Holy Land than any other places in the world. So I'm blessed that I was born here and I was raised here.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, it's so good to see you again. So Mary is one of our guides. So we take pilgrims over to the Holy Land. And if you caught our Holy Week virtual pilgrimage, you would have noticed that on Tuesday of Holy Week, Mary did our video for St. Peter and Gallicantu. So thank you, Mary, for helping out with that project. Today we're just going to have, just a nice conversation. This is just a chance to get to know Mary, to hear about, a little bit about the Holy Land, what it looks like if you are looking to go to the Holy Land at any point, and just a great way to meet Mary and to see what it's like, get a little glimpse into what it's like to travel to the Holy Land. So thanks for being here, Mary. I guess my first question is, so you talked about it a little bit, growing up next to Holy Sepulchre, and I had the same question for Shafiq, because Shafiq joined us last week for the Meet the Guide event. And I guess the question I had was, what is it like? How's it different when you visit the holy sites now? Because growing up with them, they were probably just so familiar. It was like, did you even know that there was anything special about Holy Sepulchre, or was it just another church to you? Talk a little bit about that, how it might be different visiting now than it was as a child growing up there.
A big difference. Like when I was a child, I only knew that this is the Holy Sepulchre Church. That's where we go to church every Sunday, and that's where Jesus was crucified and where he was buried. Like my kids, what they know now. When I became a tour guide, actually everything changed. Now the history of the place. Every detail about Jesus, what happened to him there. So when I go there today, I still like the Calvary. That's my favorite place to pray. So when I want to pray alone, I go to the Calvary. I kneel down and pray there. It's different because now I read the Bible. I know everything about Jesus, what happened to him there. So spiritually, it feels different when you go to these sites today, especially the Holy Sepulchre Church where I grew up.
Yeah. Well, and tell me a little bit. So if people aren't familiar with Jerusalem, so you mentioned you lived in the Christian quarter. So just to explain to people who are watching, there are 4 quarters in Old City of Jerusalem. So tell me a little bit about the 4 quarters and what it was, because here in the States, we're this is a very Christian country in general. I mean, not everybody's Catholic. A lot of people are Christian. We do have other religions, but when you visit Jerusalem, I mean, the other religions, I mean, it's very prominent each quarter. I mean, you can walk from one quarter to the next and you realize physically there's a difference. So yeah, maybe explain to people what it's like, the different quarters, and what it was like growing up with different religions just right next to you.
Okay, Jerusalem, it's the biggest city in Israel. We have around 700,000 people living in the city. The old city of Jerusalem is the oldest part of Jerusalem. It's surrounded by a wall from the Turkish period. And inside the wall, that's the old city of Jerusalem, what we call today. And it's divided into 4 quarters. And the Romans, they are the one who divided the city when they built the Cardo and the Dicamanos, the north-south road and the east-west road. So that's how the city was divided in the 2nd century AD and until today. So we have 4 quarters. We have the Christian quarter, Armenian quarter, Muslim quarter, and Jewish quarter. So each quarter is called after the majority of the people who live in that quarter. So if it's Christian quarter, it doesn't mean there's no Jews or Muslims living there, but the majority are Christians. So that's why it's called the Christian quarter. It's different. There's a big difference when you move from one quarter to another. Like if you go to the Muslim quarter, you have to dress modestly because you know how the Muslims, they dress modestly. So I can't go like wearing a short and like sleeveless shirt to the Muslim quarter. So you have to respect their tradition. So there is a difference when you move also to the Armenian. They're more free, like all the Christians, they are Christians. So it's different. Also the Jewish, because most of the Jews who live there, they're religious. So yeah, maybe you have also to dress modestly walking through their quarter. And that quarter leads to the Temple Mount and to the Wailing Wall. So most of the religious Jews will be walking through that quarter. So it's always busy, walking toward the Wailing Wall to pray. So there is big difference between all of the 4 quarters, even they are located inside the small wall.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's very I guess representative of the state of Israel, of the Holy Land, right? That you have the 3 major religions all living right next to each other, right? And it's a fascinating experience. I know it. Yeah, it was just so shocking to me that literally you'd walk from one quarter to the next, and it's totally different shops and a totally different feel, a totally different type of restaurants that are there too, right? So it's really interesting. So. Well, tell me a little bit about, because obviously, when you go to the Holy Land, you get to meet wonderful people like you, who have, in a sense, given your life to welcoming pilgrims to come to visit. So tell me, why was this something that was interesting to you? Why did you decide to become a tour guide? Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
First of all, the main reason, because my brother, the oldest brother, he's a tour guide. So I always saw my brother as a successful man. So I wanted to be like him. And my family encouraged me also to become a tour guide. And my mom, she wanted me to become a lawyer. So, but I don't think I have that personality to become a lawyer. So that's why I chose in the end to become a tour guide. And then when I became a tour guide, because in the beginning, you think it's all about history, but when you become a tour guide and you meet the pilgrims, you know that you're not sharing only history, you're sharing your faith. So you feel that you were called to do this job. So I think most of us, the tour guides, the Christian tour guides, are happy to do this because we're doing what Jesus commanded us to do, to go and spread the word. So we're spreading his word. We're teaching the pilgrims about his miracles, his parables, everything about him. So I think we're doing what he wants us to do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. No, I've gotten the sense that every time that I visited that to all the tour guides and even the the restaurants that we visit, or the Christian places, yeah, whether it's a restaurant or a hotel, that I feel like it is a ministry to them, that this is not just a job that, okay, we're just welcoming these tourists who are coming and it's kind of annoying or whatever, all these people that are invading our homeland, but it's totally the opposite. I feel like a lot of the people who work in the pilgrimage and tourism industry, it's very much like, we love what we do. We love welcoming pilgrims. It's our job, like you just said, it's our job to share these places with the pilgrims because they are so meaningful. And I've always appreciated that, because I've always felt welcomed. I've always felt like it's not just a job. This is a ministry. We're here to help you learn the Bible and learn who Jesus was and all of those things. So, yeah. Great. Well, do you have I guess a question I have is, do you have a favorite site that you mentioned you like praying at Calvary, but is there a certain site that you particularly enjoy explaining to people or bringing pilgrims to?
Okay, we all love the Galilee because it's quiet area. But
Okay.
my favorite part of the pilgrimage, when the group wake up early in the morning and we do the Via Dolorosa.
Okay.
So that's my favorite thing to do because it's more spiritual. It's quiet, especially because Jerusalem, as I told you, it's a big city. It's too crowded. That's why we prefer the Galilee area. So when we do this part in Jerusalem, early in the morning, it's different. And the pilgrims, when they enter the Holy Sepulchre Church early in the morning, spiritually they feel different, because this is the site where Jesus was crucified. So that's why he came, and that's the most important site. So when we do this site early in the morning, I love it. So I will tell you only early in the morning when we do it, but not during the day when it's crowded. It's not my favorite site.
Yeah. Could you explain, because some people watching might not know what the tradition is. Could you explain what you're talking about?
Like when the groups visit the Holy Land, we walk the Station of the Cross from station number 1 to station number 14, which is the Holy Tomb of Jesus. So station number 1, it starts where Jesus was condemned by Pontius Pilate. So it's located inside the old city of Jerusalem, and that's where 40,000 people live inside the city, and it's a holy city for Muslims, Christians, and Jews. So you can see also people from outside the city walking in the old city to visit their holy sites, excluding the pilgrims, thousands of them. So because this is the moment where you feel that you're too close to God, walking the way of the cross, you have to do it early in the morning, because the city during the day it's too crowded. So that's why I always tell the pilgrims, on this day you have to wake up early. So usually we do it 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Like I tell them, you do it once in your lifetime, but I do it every week or every other week. I'm ready to wake up early and do it every week or every other week with pilgrims. So we walk the station. We stop at each station and we pray. We will have this special booklet, pray the Stations of the Cross, and then we end the stations inside the Holy Sepulchre Church. And usually we end it with Mass inside the Holy Sepulchre Church. That's why if you travel with Perso, most of the times we get Mass there inside the Holy Sepulchre Church. So it's a different feeling. If you do it during the day, you won't have that spiritual feeling because it's too crowded.
Yeah. That's one of my most favorite spiritual experiences ever that I've done. Not even just in the Holy Land, but you're right. It's so contemplative, and to think about. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're praying the stations, but you're praying the stations where they occurred, and you're entering into this prayerful moment, and then you end at Holy Sepulchre, as you mentioned, which is the spot of the crucifixion and the tomb, but then also the resurrection. So then it's almost like this wild ride, emotional ride, because you're you're contemplating the passion and the death of Christ and all of this. And then we do transition to having Mass, as Mary just mentioned. And then you're celebrating Easter. And so it's like this wild ride of, oh my goodness, this is what Jesus did for me. But then he resurrected, and it's almost too much to comprehend. It takes some time to process. But it is one of the most spiritually rich experiences that you'll ever have in the Holy Land or anywhere else. So I would definitely agree with that. So, are there any places that you like to point out to pilgrims that are maybe off the beaten path, or places that is there a site or a place that you would like to take pilgrims, but many of them don't go because either they don't have time or they don't know about it? It's not the most popular place. Are there any places that, are you could share like a hidden gem that most people don't visit that you would recommend that pilgrims go to visit?
Usually, most of the tours we do, we have no time to add places. But if we add places, it's good to add. Like now we add it on all the itineraries at Magdala. So we have Bethsaida, the Chorazim, like the pilgrims, they don't. When we go to Bethlehem, when we have time and there's no long line to visit the place where Jesus was born, I always take the group to visit the cave where Mary, she was hiding when Herod ordered to kill the children of Bethlehem, and where she nursed Jesus, because it says that a drop of milk fell down and it turned the cave into white. So especially when we have people in our group, they have problems with having babies, or they are sick, so they have faith. They take the powder from that cave, and a lot of miracles for people happened after drinking that powder. So this is the site which I usually add if we have time in Bethlehem and there's no long line to visit that place where Jesus was born. There are a lot of places, especially like in Sea of Galilee. I take them, if we have time, we finish early on that day, I take them to view the area from the eastern side, because we are always on the western side. And the eastern side, that's where the Gentiles used to live and where we believe the miracle of the swine took place. So we also drive around the lake, so pass by the eastern side, stop in a place there, pinpoint the areas which we visited during that day. So there are a lot to add, but usually we visit the most important places. And if there is time, the guide will always be happy to add places for you if there is time and they are open.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I've been myself maybe 5 times now, and I feel like there's still so much to learn and to go and to be. And I mean, you could spend your whole life visiting all the sites, because we haven't even talked about some of the archaeological sites that are there, the historical sites. I mean, there's so much history and Jewish sites, Muslim sites, archaeological sites. That's all in addition to all the Christian sites that are there. So, but I think you named a couple good ones. So you were talking about the Milk Grotto in Bethlehem, which we do try to get our groups over there. And Galilee, in the Galilee region, there are so many places to see. We just can't fit them all in, unfortunately. So very good, very good. Well, I just want to remind people that are watching, if you have any questions in particular for Mary or any comments, please feel free to put them in the chat. We're monitoring that. So if you have any particular questions, you can send them in. With that, I'm going to switch over. We planned a small game for Mary called Stump the Guide. We want to test Mary's knowledge of her ability. So, as you know, the becoming a tour guide is no small feat. So they go through a lot of training. It's a long process. It's an arduous process. They have to know not only everything about the Christian sites, but they have to know about every site, any site that a tourist might go to in the Holy Land, they have to know. So to become a registered licensed tour guide, you have to know a lot. So I think Mary's going to pass this with flying colors. I think she'll have no problem, but it'll be fun. Let's see how you can do. So,
but they have to know we took a break for 1 year. No accounting.
well, that's true. That's true. Mary's been on a break for 1 year from COVID. But anyways, I think you'll do fine. So I'm gonna share my screen, and I'll start a timer. There's gonna be 2 minutes, and we can see how many questions you can get right in 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. So let me share my screen. All right. So the first one. This is a Jerusalem cross. So can you explain the significance of the Jerusalem cross?
Okay, there is a lot of explanations for Jerusalem cross. The one which I like is that Jesus, the big cross is Jesus, and the four small crosses are the four gospels. Or you can also say that the 5 crosses are the 5 wounds of Jesus.
The 5 wounds of Jesus. Yeah. Okay, good. Next one. Who was the first pope to visit the Holy Land, and would you know in what year?
Pope the sixth, Paul the Sixth.
Yes, correct.
1967.
Close. 1964. Very good. I thought that one is going to be a tough one. Okay, so you know this site. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, but can you name the 6 churches that who share the church?
Yeah, we have here. If we walk to the Holy Sepulchre from this area, first we're gonna see the Coptic convent, and then we walk through the Ethiopian church. So second are Ethiopian. We have the Armenian, Greek Orthodox, Syriac Orthodox, and Roman Catholic.
Okay, perfect. What is the only site in the Holy Land named after King Herod the Great?
Herodian.
Herodian, good. Okay, where can you find this icon? In what church?
Let me see.
This is a tough one. I thought you might take some time with it.
Yeah, I want a lot to see the left side here, what it shows. Is it Dormition?
It's the monastery of the Holy Apostles. It's the Greek Orthodox monastery next to Capernaum.
Okay.
Yeah, that small little church. So okay, well that was the time up. But you did very, very well. I thought that was the hardest question of the bunch. I had a few more ready, but that was a hard one because that's not a site we typically take pilgrims to, because it's a Greek Orthodox church and we don't have time normally. So very good. You passed. Good job. All right. Well, we want to take some time too to not just talk about some of the sites and learning about you as being a guide, but we also wanted to answer some questions. You know, if people have questions about like what is it like to visit if they're thinking about going. So we do have a question from somebody that's on Facebook, and they asked, when is the best time of year to visit the Holy Land?
Let's say March, April, September, October, because it's not too cold or too hot to visit the Holy Land. And especially if you come like end of March, beginning of April, excluding like Jewish holidays, or end of September, that's also, it's not too crowded, you know. So I always tell them to come either March, April, or September, October.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the summers can be very, very hot, correct? So like July is if you don't want crowds, you can go in July, but you also be very, very hot the whole time.
Yes.
So it really can depend on when you know, what's important to you. If nice weather is good for you, if crowd level is another factor, and also pricing. So obviously the more popular times will be more expensive, the less popular times will be more economical. So that's good. Well, what could they expect? So if, so like could you walk them through maybe a typical pilgrimage? Like what what does the typical itinerary look like on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land?
So usually the first day they arrive, most of the Americans, they arrive in the evening. So we drive to Tel Aviv for dinner and overnight. And the next day, that will be the first day in their tour in the Holy Land. We usually visit Caesarea Maritima, and that's a Roman city which was built by Herod the Great. And that's where Peter baptized the first Gentile, Cornelius. And that's where also Paul was imprisoned before he sailed to Rome from Caesarea. So it was also a port city. And then we drive north toward Mount Carmel. We visit Stella Maris Church, the Carmelite monastery. And we can see inside the church a cave where Elijah, the prophet Elijah, was hiding from King Ahab. That's from the Old Testament. And there's a very beautiful church built there and very beautiful statue for Mary. It's called Stella Maris after her. Then we drive to Nazareth, and that's where we have the Church of the Annunciation. And usually with groups, we have Mass in Nazareth. And we end the day in Cana, where the first miracle, turning water into wine, happened in John 2. And that's where the couples usually renew their wedding vows. And we either stay in Nazareth or in Sea of Galilee area. So second day, we actually do the Sea of Galilee. We visit Capernaum, the hometown of Jesus. That's where most of his miracles took place, in Capernaum. And we visit St. Peter Primacy. If we go back to John 21, that's where Jesus appeared to the disciple after the resurrection. And then the Church of the Multiplication of Bread and Fish to remember the miracle of the multiplication. And most interesting thing on that day to do is a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if we have time, we drive all the way up to the Upper Galilee to visit Caesarea Philippi, and that's where the sources of the Jordan River start. And that's where Peter confession happened in Matthew, book of Matthew, in Caesarea Philippi. And that will be the second day. So third day, usually we do Mount Tabor in the morning. And that's the Transfiguration Mountain where Jesus transfigured. And then most of the time, maybe we do on that day, we drive toward Jericho and we visit till Jericho. We can view Mount of Temptation. And also there is a place which is called Qumran in that area. And that's where the Dead Sea Scrolls were written 2,000 years ago. So we visit the area where the Essenes used to live, and they wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. And by the way, the Dead Sea Scrolls are copies of the Bible from 2,000 years ago. Right. So that we know that we have the right copy in our hands today. And on that day, we end the day with floating in the Dead Sea. So we give them chance to float in the lowest place on earth, which is the Dead Sea. So it depends. Sometimes we go to Bethlehem on that day. It depends. Sure. And then we do Jerusalem. Like we stay 4 days in Jerusalem. Yeah. One day we do the Bethlehem where Jesus was born, the shepherd field where the angels appeared to the shepherds. And also in that afternoon, we visit in Karim, the hometown of John the Baptist. And there's a very beautiful church called the Vaccination Church over there, where Mary visited Elizabeth. So it's a nice place to visit. And the next day we do Mount of Olives. When you stand on Mount of Olives, you have a very beautiful view to the old city of Jerusalem from there. Yeah. Then we walk the Palm Sunday Road, and we stop at Dominus Flevey Church. And that's when Jesus looked at the city and wept. Then we walk all the way down to the Garden of Gethsemane, where he was arrested when he was betrayed. And then we cross the Kidron Valley, and then go all the way up. Don't worry, we'll take the bus to Caiaphas' house. And that's where Jesus was judged there, and he spent his last night before he was crucified. And the last day would be wake up early in the morning
Yeah,
on my
we
way,
talked about that. Yeah.
walk the Via Dolorosa, and all the way to the Holy Sepulchre Church. And on that day, either you can have the rest of the day free, or we can add more sites to visit in the Holy Land.
Yeah.
So that's most of the itinerary looks like. But if you're staying extra days, we can add more sites.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as you were going through that, what I was thinking about, and I felt this way the first time that I heard about these places. And for somebody who's not familiar with the Holy Land, I feel like it would be like, oh my goodness, this is too overwhelming. There's so many places to see. I know these stories, but I don't know which church matches with which place, right? So I've heard of Nazareth, I've heard of Bethlehem, I've heard of the story of the Transfiguration or of the Sea of Galilee, but it's hard to place where all these things happened. And so I think I view our role at Verso Ministries is to help pilgrims before they even come to the Holy Land, is to help them understand some of these places, because it can be very overwhelming when you go, because there's so many places. Each day you might see 3, 4, 5, even 6 churches. And at the end of a week, you look back and you go, I don't even remember what was what. So we really encourage pilgrims before you go to learn, to read, to pull out a map, maybe even, and look, okay, what are these churches? Why are they important? Because if the more you can learn before you go, the easier it can be to really soak in and to experience the places, because it can be so overwhelming. So yeah, do you have any other tips like that for pilgrims who are thinking about going? Are there other things you can do before you go to help prepare?
To read the itinerary 2 or 3 times, and like if it says like we're going on this day to Cana. What is Cana?
Yeah.
Okay, so we always, like when we write the itinerary, we like add 2 lines to explain about the site.
Right.
So go into the Bible or Google, just to read a little bit about Cana. Oh, that's where Jesus' first miracle happened. That's where we can renew our wedding vows. So just get an idea about the places you're gonna visit. And always the tour guide also at the end of the day, he's gonna tell you what you're gonna visit tomorrow. So if you're not too tired at night, you have every night you're in the Holy Land, also read about about the sites you're gonna visit the next day. This way, you're gonna learn more, and you will be excited to know what he's gonna tell us about this site tomorrow. Because I have a lot of people in the group, they come and we take them all of the places, and they are overwhelmed and they can't remember all the sites. I say, okay, Mary, I saw the places, but I'm coming next year to learn about these places. and some of them, they want to come every year to join a pilgrimage and come here, because they want to learn more and more, because the more you come, the more you learn.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm sure you could attest to that. So it is very overwhelming, but there are ways where you can manage that. And there's ways that, we encourage our pilgrims, the more you can kind of read up and research, and not to go crazy with it, but even just to get familiar, that will help when you're there and help you process everything. So it's not all totally new when you arrive. But it's also good to know, I mean, your tour guide is there to help you remember. You might have a picture on your phone, you show them, okay, what church was this again? And you can make a note to yourself to write it down, things like that.
Yeah, like I had a pilgrim like 2 weeks ago. He was looking at the pictures of the Holy Land, and he's a friend with me on Facebook, and he sent me a text, Mary, what was this site? So I tell him. So it's good also. You can stay in touch with us. You can ask us questions anytime. And all of us who work with Verso, we are happy to help you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, tell us a little bit of like what's the situation now given COVID and all of that? Like, what's the situation in Israel right now?
My son went to school on Monday because when COVID started, there were 3 lockdowns here, and he was only allowed to go to school 2 or 3 days each week because they divided them into groups. So on Monday he started going every day to school, and on Sunday they told us that it's okay to walk outdoors without mask on, and that's that's good. That was weird walking without a mask.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
we only wear them indoors. And most of the COVID test stations closed because we only have a very small amount. Like today, I heard in the news only 0.03% cases we have in Israel.
Positive. Oh, wow.
Yes, so that is good. I can tell you, like 90%, we're back to normal life. We only wear a mask indoor. That's the only thing which is left. Everything is open. We can go everywhere, and we're happy.
Yeah, that's good. They're good to hear. I think everybody's ready to travel again for sure. Obviously, when it's safe to do so. So I did hear. I saw a news announcement. I don't know if the official date has Israel released an official date as to when they're welcoming groups back to the country.
May 23rd, it's gonna be open May 23rd, and I heard that there are groups coming in June. I heard.
Yeah, we can't wait to get back there. And obviously, we're going to take all of the precautions to make sure that people travel safely. So we're not just going to rush across the minute it's open because we want to go. But yeah, I think that's good. Could you talk a little bit about what are hotels doing? What are restaurants doing? Like, how are they handling COVID when you travel in the Holy Land?
Actually, I was in the north 2 weeks ago, and we stayed at Pilgrim House Hotel. It's located on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. When we checked in, they checked our the vaccination card that we all have it, and or they checked if we did the corona test. So, but we all had the certificate. So. We were allowed to sit outdoor without the mask. It was fine. But when we went to the dining room to eat breakfast or dinner, we had to put the mask when we enter. And there were sanitizers everywhere, and the tables were far from each other. And you can sit and keep space between you and the other one. So, right. And it was not bothering. It was okay. So I didn't feel anything strange.
Yeah, and we're used to that. Same ideas here in the restaurants in the States. So I think a lot of the protocols, safety protocols that you might experience in the States traveling, whether it's checking into the hotel or in the dining room spacing, even on the bus, limiting bus capacity is another thing that we'll be doing. So all of those kind of typical safety protocols you'll see is what you'll see on a trip to the Holy Land. So yeah, I'll just invite if there's anybody else with any questions or comments. We're kind of wrapping up here, but yeah, we're so grateful, Mary, for your time. And I know personally, I'm ready to get on a plane and get back there. We're just ready to come visit again and to bring pilgrims again, because we feel like we've been doing our best to share these sites on social media. We just had this Holy Week virtual pilgrimage, but obviously one thing to visit virtually, it's another thing to actually go and visit these places in person. So we're excited to go back once it's safe to do so. One thing I'll mention too, so I mean, I do believe that Israel will be requiring vaccinations, at least for the near future. So to arrive to the country, you will need a proof of a vaccination. Is that correct? Or will you need something else?
Or you were infected with the virus to show a proof. And I think they're gonna do tests also for the pilgrims in the airport when they arrive.
Correct, I did hear that.
All of our safety, I think.
Yeah. So I do believe you will have to take a test when you arrive, also a test when you leave, And
Yes.
those would be provided at the airport.
Yeah.
You could take them at the airport. So great. Great. Well, if there's no other questions, I just encourage you, encourage those that are watching, if you want to follow Mary on Facebook, you're welcome to. I'm going to share my screen so they could find how to find you on Facebook. So I know I've been following Mary. So Mary, you've been posting pictures. I know, like you said, you were up north a couple of weeks ago. So I remember seeing pictures of the places that you were visiting, and you were sharing about the places that you were seeing. So if you'd like to, you can head over to Facebook to follow Mary. Also, I would encourage those of you, if you're interested in going on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, we certainly invite you to do that. We have departures beginning this fall to go back to the Holy Land. With the news, this is very recent news of going to Israel starting in May. So we might even add potentially departure earlier if there's enough demand, because we're ready to head back. And so if you are interested, you can head to our website, versoministries.com, to learn about what that looks like to go on a pilgrimage with us. If you have any questions, I invite you can just email me. I'd be happy to set up a meeting to talk about what it's like to travel there, what questions you have, walk through the itinerary, whatever it might be. So my email is here on the screen. You can call the number there. Either myself or Stephanie would be happy to walk through any questions that you might have about a Holy Land pilgrimage. But also on our website, you would learn about, we have a couple of very enticing programs to do. So we have a money back guarantee going on right now, which means if you book before May 31st, then if there's any complications with COVID, you get our full guarantee of your money back through that. So you can find all the details about our money back guarantee online. Also, you can find information about our program called Safely Sent, which is our safety protocol. So we talked a little bit about safety here, but you can go on our website and read about exactly what we're doing. So what's expected of you while you're traveling, what we'll be asking of you, of the fellow pilgrims, what the tour guide will be doing, the hotels, restaurants, etc. All of that safety protocols and guidelines will be on our website. So with that, yeah, I don't know, Mary, did you have any last advice or any last things you wanted to share with us before we say goodbye?
Just encouraging them to come here. So it's gonna be a different tour in your lifetime. You're gonna visit the land of Jesus, and as Saint Jerome said, visiting the Holy Land is like reading the fifth gospel. So we invite you to come and read the fifth gospel.
Thank you very much. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for everybody for joining, and have a wonderful rest of the day, the Easter season, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.